Florida State has the opportunity for a few massive flips in the 2024 recruiting cycle, and maybe even already a couple of flips in the 2025 class on the horizon. FSU has been recruiting very well since July 1st, and it really hasn't stopped since then. We landed D.D. Holmes, Charles Lester, Elijah Moore, K.J. Bolden, and several others. It also looks like FSU is about to land another top 100 DB in Zaquan Patterson, which is an absolutely insane DB haul. But I wanted to talk about some other recruits that are already committed to other programs that FSU is looking to hopefully flip this cycle. I'm sure you all remember how FSU flipped five-star tight end Landon Thomas away from Georgia back in the spring. And as big as this was, it almost seems like old news now considering how successful Florida State has been on the recruiting trail ever since. FSU also recently flipped four-star offensive lineman Manasseh Itit from USC. Now, Itit was originally predicted to Florida State before making a somewhat random, shocking commitment to USC after a visit, but he since then realized that he wanted to come play for the good guys after all. So FSU has already gathered a couple of big flips this cycle. Now let's talk about a couple more. We'll start with the biggest fish on FSU's board, and of course the biggest fish in the whole recruiting cycle in five-star wide receiver Jeremiah Smith, who is currently committed to Ohio State. Now we all know Ohio State has been an absolute factory of NFL wide receivers, so it's no shock that they of course recruit that position very well, like gaining a commitment from a player like Smith. Since Smith's commitment, he's still visited Florida State multiple times. He's also been to UF a couple times as well, so he's definitely shown some interest in other schools, including the big three Florida schools in Florida, Miami, and of course Florida State, who I think is firmly in the number 2 spot and the favorite if Smith were to reopen his recruitment. Of course, the on-field product FSU put out in 2022 is playing a factor here, as it should for an offensive player of his caliber. The success of the wide receiver group headed by Johnny Wilson can't be ignored here. But I also think that it's what FSU is expected to do in 2023. Florida State's offense was already very good, and it really should move into elite status at this point, especially at the wide receiver position. And if it all plays out like fans think it will, I definitely see FSU becoming a major threat to flip Jeremiah Smith. He said it himself. He obviously likes the offense, and he wants to see what they do on the field this year. He's also said multiple times how much he likes Ron Dugans and head coach Mike Norvell. Mike Norvell's had a long relationship with Smith dating back to his freshman year of high school when Mike Norvell told him that he could see him becoming the best player at his position. Now fast forward to now, and here Smith is as the number 1 player in the entire country. These kind of moments hold a ton of merit with recruits, especially when paired with a proven concept on the field. Smith has plans to visit FSU again in season, and this is huge because he's likely coming for the Miami game, where the atmosphere at Doak will be electric, and the offense should have another field day similar to 2022, if not worse. But he's also planning to come for an official visit to FSU in December, and I always like getting a late visit that close to early signing day, especially considering he's already used his official visit to Ohio State. There's also some speculation of Brian Hartline leaving Ohio State in the future, if not sooner. There's been rumors of him being connected to the open coaching job at Northwestern. But even if Hartline stays, I think the Noles still have a solid shot to flip him just based on everything else I mentioned. So we'll absolutely be keeping an eye on this one and see if Mike Norvell can't make another major splash this recruiting cycle. This will also be big because if FSU is able to steal Ohio State's top wide receiver, they'll have to go elsewhere to fill that spot. I think a prime candidate is 4-star wide receiver Chance Robinson, who is currently committed to Miami. OSU extended an offer recently, and I think it at least slightly is already being set up as sort of a backup option if Smith were to flip and go elsewhere. So FSU could really get good news twice here to not only land a major target in Smith, but also aid in Miami losing one of their highest rated commits. Now, even if FSU does ultimately flip Jeremiah Smith, but especially if they don't or if they lose confidence in that recruitment, I do expect them to turn up the heat on flipping another 4-star, 5-star, depending on the service, wide receiver JoJo Trader, who is also currently committed to Miami. This was another recruitment that was mainly a Florida State-Miami battle with teams like Ohio State and Florida sort of in the mix as well. Trader was another kid who it felt like Florida State led for until he announced a random commitment to Miami. Now, I've heard some things about that whole situation, and his mom is currently dealing with some health issues. Trader is a South Florida kid as well, so maybe with all that considered, he thought committing to Miami would be a good way to stay close to home. I've also heard some other things in that recruitment that I won't get into, but nevertheless, he has said that despite his commitment to Miami, he'll still be taking all his visits, including at least one to FSU. Miami is also not going to have it even close to the kind of season Florida State is expected to have. And we all know how their offense looked horrible last year. So maybe that comes into play a bit later on. But I fully expect FSU to continue to pursue here, and they'll likely go all out for his next visit. Maybe the staff will back off a little bit if they land Smith, or if they start to feel like it's not going their way with Trader. But as of right now, he's still very much on the table for Florida State. And speaking of Miami commits, 4-star defensive lineman Artavius Jones is also another player I have on Flip Watch. This is a kid who FSU has been in the mix for a while now. He really likes Coach Odell Higgins, as does everybody, and he has a good relationship with Coach Norvell as well. After committing to Miami, he still visited Florida State, where he made the odd claim that he was, quote, locked in with both FSU and Miami right now. And then he even gave a go Noles. Now, this doesn't sound at all like a kid who's firm in his pledge to his current school. Miami writers and message boards, as delusional as they are, have even listed FSU as a major threat to flip him. This would be huge for a couple reasons. The first being that, as good as FSU has recruited this cycle so far, currently sitting with the number 5 class in the country, the one position that's still leaving a bit to be desired is defensive line recruiting. So, to land a blue chip player like Jones would be awesome, and even better to steal him from Miami and we'll have to watch them melt down like they have all offseason. Next up, remember we mentioned flipping offensive lineman Manasseh Ateet from USC? Well, they also have another 4-star offensive lineman we're involved with as well, and Jason Zandamela. Jason is another kid that was predicted to Florida State back in the spring and then went on to visit USC and committed there. Now, I don't know what they present out there to get kids to commit out of nowhere, but it seems to at least work in the short term. Florida State is absolutely looking to get Zandamela back on campus this season, and that shouldn't be difficult considering he's from Clearwater. Florida State is still heavily pursuing here, and I don't bet against Atkins. Even though flips are harder to pull off, this is definitely one to keep an eye on, and if they can pull off a flip here, it'll only add to one of the best offensive line hauls in the entire cycle. So that's 4 potential flips in the 2024 recruiting cycle, on top of the 2 major flips that FSU has already pulled off. But there's a few more in the 2025 class that I want to mention as well. Starting with 5-star linebacker Jaden Perlott, who is currently committed to Georgia because who else? Perlott is KJ Bolden's friend and teammate at Buford High School, and typically this doesn't always mean much, but prior to KJ's commitment, he said that he was going to have to see where KJ goes because wherever KJ goes, he'll be there. KJ has also said that he's personally recruiting Jaden to join him at Florida State as well, and they both said that they enjoyed playing together in high school and would love to do that at the next level. I've heard Georgia is playing some good defense here, but there's even a few predictions already in for Florida State to flip him from UGA, and I expect that to happen sooner rather than later. Maybe this can be the start of the Randy Shannon revenge tour, as Florida State fans need to see an uptick in linebacker recruiting. Now, another interesting recruitment is for 4-star defensive back Chris Ewald, who is currently committed to Michigan for the 2025 class. What is interesting about this is he's not only an elite corner who plays well all throughout the secondary, but he currently attends Chaminade Madonna, which is where Jeremiah Smith, JoJo Trader, and Zaquan Patterson all go to high school. It's no surprise that their team is stacked with so much talent, as it's a powerhouse here in the state, but it's also where 4-star athlete Edwin Joseph went to high school before enrolling at FSU. So Mike Norvell and the staff definitely seem to be trying to establish a pipeline there, which would be huge. Ewald was last on campus for Florida State's elite camp back in June, where he acknowledged Florida State's traditions and his mutual interest with FSU. Another thing to keep an eye on is if FSU does end up landing Zaquan Patterson like I think they will, this could be huge and swing momentum Florida State's way for landing Chris Ewald as well. There's still a lot of time left in this one as the 2025 class is a ways away, but the Noles are at least solid in the mix right now with a chance to flip him. There's a couple other guys as well, such as 5-star Elias Williams, who's also committed to Georgia, but I'll need to see or hear more out of those recruitments to really put them on a flip watch. But either way, we have lots of recruiting stuff to keep an eye on as it is. We got lots of potential flips on the horizon, and if these can go our way, especially the 2024 ones, it could boost Florida State's top 5 class even higher while filling positions of need with elite talent, which is the name of the game. I'll definitely keep you guys updated. Zaquan Patterson is announcing his commitment in just a couple more days, and then we got the season opener against LSU in just over a week. But let me know what you guys think of all this. Can the Noles pull off these flips? Let me know in the comments, and let's talk Noles.